This video is sponsored by Elton.
Hey guys, Chris here. In this video, we are doing the 120 kilometers an hour or 75 miles per hour range test in the NIO EL7. So today we're going to find out just how far this car can go on a full charge of battery. And then at the end of the video, we're going to come back to these chargers, connect, and see what kind of charging speed we actually get after passive heating and a few hours on the road just driving. So no active preheating in this car. This has active preheating via navigation system and also manually, which is very, very good. But today's video is all about maximum range and that passive heating capability. We do active preheating in other tests here on the channel. And then at the very absolute end of the video, we're going to rank this car according to how many kilometers or miles it was able to get in this test and see how it compares to the competition. We are now Oscar Mike, and we've been on the road for about 15 to 20 minutes, and we are now approaching the Minnesenbrua, where we have the wind socket. And according to the wind map, we do have a quite, substantial wind of 4 meters per second from the northwest. So that means we're going to have about 2 meter per second headwind on our way up. But once we're approaching the wind socket here, it looks actually quite calm, and the trees look calm. So maybe we don't have, as strong as a wind as the wind map was telling us. And also looking at the Mjøsa Lake here, yeah, pretty calm. So to me, it looks like it's like 0 to 1 meters per second, super calm. Usually this is the point in the video where I give you guys the first update on consumption, but this car does not have a readout for kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. You have to go into a menu here and it will tell you the total consumption on the trip, but if I stop to go to the toilet on the way, it will reset. So I have to, take notes as I go along. But there is, a readout here in the dashboard, but I haven't been able to reset it. I tried resetting it. I called the guy at NIO. He told me to do some stuff that didn't work. So it's really weird because when I reset, the accumulated consumption, the same, counter that's counting the total consumption on the trip, it says it's going to reset the display here in the screen, but it doesn't. Currently showing 23.0 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, but how accurate is that? I don't know. But once we get to our turnaround point, I'm going to do calculations because that's how we do that in this car. So maybe just a bug. Hopefully that will be fixed later on in my test week with this car. But yeah, other than that, pretty quiet, pretty comfortable car. I mean, very little road noise. Like the NIO ET7, this EL7 is one of the quietest cars under 100 kilometers an hour. Once you get above those speeds, there is a little bit of, noise off the wing mirrors and also the windscreen. But it's actually super quiet here. So we're going to continue about 100 kilometers north till we get to Moelv, which is our turnaround point, and I'll talk to you guys there. We're now approaching our turnaround point. This is where the motorway ends for this part, but they're actually building it 40 kilometers north from here. Probably done in a few years, and for now, I mean, this route, which is 216 kilometers, is long enough for testing most electric cars. And in winter, some electric cars aren't even able to do this, like the cars with the smallest batteries, and if conditions are bad. So maybe in the future, when that road is finished and electric cars get more and more range, bigger batteries, better efficiency, we'll extend this route. But for now, this is more than long enough. So as I was saying earlier, this car only has a readout for the total consumption. So let's stop here in this bus stop, and then we'll have to do some calculations. So 28.3. So we take the number 28.3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, divide that by the distance, which is 108 kilometers, and then multiply that by 100. We get a average consumption of 26.2 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So not exactly low, but as the wind map was saying, we should have a little bit of a headwind. So hopefully that will drop once we, get back to our start point. So now we're gonna take a left in this roundabout. We're gonna head southward now on the E6 motorway, And then once we get to the chargers where we started, we're going to connect and see what kind of charging speed we get, and also take a look at the consumption and calculate our total range for this trip and this day of driving. Okay, here we are. This is our exit. We're gonna go back to the chargers where we started. The recharge chargers up here, these Alpitronic Hyperchargers. Hopefully they're all vacant at this time. They usually are. So we're gonna stop the timer, 1 hour and 53 minutes, and our total consumption is 55.7 kilowatt hours in total, not per 100 kilometers, but 55.7. So we're gonna have to do some calculations afterwards. But before we do that, we're gonna connect here, and then we're gonna see what kind of charging speed we get now after a few hours on the road with passive heating. We're now connected here to the recharge charger. The charge port on this NIO EL7 is on the right front fender. It's quite interesting design, this flap here that moves away. And I also do apologize if it is a little bit windy. It's a little bit hard to open this flap. I've been pressing it a few times. So while we're waiting for the car to initialize and connect, I just want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, which is Elton, the most awesome charging app in the Nordic countries, which will let you charge at almost all charge point operators in Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. One app, one payment card registered, and with one interface, you have a full overview of all chargers. You can filter for speed and all stuff like that. And it's super easy to use. So if you live in one of these countries, if you plan on coming to, well, Scandinavia or the Nordics this summer, I will highly recommend you guys to download the Elton app because it's gonna make life a lot easier. So let's take a look here. We are now connected and we're getting 122 kilowatts at 27% stated charge. Not too bad. This car does have a peak charging speed of 126 kilowatts. Even though the battery is 100 kilowatt hours gross or 90 kilowatt hours usable, the peak charging speed isn't more than 126. So we're almost getting full charging speed now. Probably if we were at a little bit lower state of charge, we would be getting a little bit higher, but we're pretty close to peak now. Before we end today's video, let's take a look at the battery pack size, the consumption, and then calculate theoretical range. So this NIO EL7 has a usable battery capacity, which is 90 kilowatt hours. We take that number, divide it by the consumption, and then subtract about 3% in heat loss. We get a theoretical range, which, well, we don't have all the numbers because, yeah, this car does not have a kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers readout. So we don't have that number to do the calculation. So we have to do another calculation with this car, and that is taking the total consumption, 55.7 kilowatt hours, and then divide that by the distance, 216 kilometers, and multiply it by 100. And when we do that, we get an average consumption of 25.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is a little bit lower than what we had at our halfway point, which was 26.2. So, well, my feeling and my visual confirmation about the wind was more accurate than that wind map. Very calm, not a lot of wind today. So when we then do all the calculations, we get a theoretical range of 338 kilometers, which isn't bad considering this size of vehicle. This is about Audi e-tron or Q8 e-tron, which is now called, size, about the same width, about the same length, interior room and trunk. So this is that size of vehicle, and I haven't tested the Q8 e-tron yet. I'm gonna have that car in a few weeks and do all of my testing. Considering I had the old car, this range is actually pretty good, and the consumption, though sounds high, isn't too bad. But there's one caveat: this car is still on winter tires. Why is NIO delivering out press cars in the end of May, beginning of June with winter tires? That's really strange. But does that mean higher or lower consumption? It at least means that there's less road noise. That's usually the case when you go from winter to summer tires, that the summer tires have a little bit more road noise. So we're looking at 66.4% of the WLTP rated range, which is, it's okay. The WLTP rated range of this car over 500 kilometers is actually pretty decent, but being able to go 300 and almost 50 kilometers, 3.5 hours on the motorway before you have to stop and charge, that is actually quite decent. This does have battery swap technology. I'm not going to be able to test that in this test week either, because this is only half a test week. This car is really fully booked because this is a very new car. So NIO wasn't able to give me this car for more than about 4 days. So I'm going to do my normal testing. And well, for long trips, that slow charging speed with a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack really does impact how fast you can travel. But we're going to test that out in the long trip test. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.